documentation either online, or you can do that inside Canada by post. Now, you've mentioned that you're starting with a new employer. It's important to understand that you're not allowed to start working for the new employer until a decision is rendered on your application. If you were working for the same employer, you would be able to continue working for that employer without waiting for a new decision on the application. Under both situations, either new employer or continuing employer, you do not have to leave Canada, assuming you've made that application prior to the expiry of the work permit.
Perfect, thank you. And the next question, so this actually is a question we get asked very often, and it is, how can I apply as a provincial nominee?
We often are faced with choices to be made for applicants coming to Canada. Remember that the biggest the biggest category of applications is the express entry system. Now, the express entry system comprises of just 4 categories. If you're applying under one of those categories, which includes a provincial program, the provincial program itself under express entry has to have certain subprograms that are part of the express entry system. So if you're looking to be part of the express entry system, you would have to qualify under the provincial program that is linked to the express entry system. You would go ahead and apply, and once you have approval, that would all be done online, and you're creating an express entry profile, which would be joined up with your express entry approval from the province. You can check our website, and we distinguish these variances. There are a number of programs in the provinces that are not part of the express entry system. So in that instance, you're applying through the provincial program by paper. You're qualifying generally, the position doesn't meet the express entry system. It has to have a higher level, a higher rank, and we cover all that on our website. So we often encourage people to go ahead and, if you're looking at an express entry type provincial program, submit your profile to the federal express entry system, and then afterwards you'll join up the provincial approval, the nomination. Again, if you're not applying under the express entry system of a province, then you would be dealing directly with the province, and then you would apply for permanent residence outside the express entry system once you have the provincial nomination. Bear in mind, if you're applying for a provincial program that's not part of the express entry system, these programs open and close very quickly. They are quota-based. The provinces have certain allocations each year, and so you need to be really informed and up to date, and more importantly, your application has to be ready to go as soon as a program is open. So we encourage people to keep abreast of these types of programs that open and close very quickly, so that you won't be faced with a program being overfilled by the time you submit your application. But that's generally the strategy involved in a provincial program. Again, Quebec is quite different. They have their own rules and their own powers, which are significantly different, let's say, than a provincial nomination program. And again, we cover, of course, the Quebec program on our website in quite detail.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Colin. The next question, this person's in a common law relationship. They want to know, how can my common law partner and I prove that we've been together for 12 months?
Well, the first part of an application of this nature is that you're going to submit a statutory declaration. You have to have a formal legal document that is confirming the common law union. Now, that is the initiating document that you build from. You will add to that document an array of possibilities. You're basically trying to show evidence that's objective, that indicates that you have a relationship together, of course, dating back for the period of 12 months in question. That could be anywhere from utility bills, it could be a property that's in joint name, it could be insurances. It's quite open, and really you don't have to submit all of these documents, but generally we try to include a nice number of documentation that will show and confirm objectively that the two individuals have a life together and have been cohabitating in a common law relationship. Cohabitation, by the way, is not in itself a requirement. It's one way that's done. But what you don't want to, of course, do, and immigration authorities don't like this, is when you submit CD-ROMs and photo books and things like that. So stay away from that. But a good consultation on that could help you, but it may not be necessary depending on your approach to putting together a full application of this type.
Perfect. Thank you. So the next question, this person it's a parental sponsorship application. So they want to know, what are the consequences of the sponsor and co-sponsor of the two foreign nationals, parents, agreeing to divorce prior to the arrival of two foreigners in the country? So the two foreign nationals have already been approved for PR. They want to know if the visa can be jeopardized due to the change in the sponsor's marital status. The main sponsor makes over $65,000 a year.
Well, you've mentioned, the individuals mentioned that the permanent residence application has already been approved. So it means that likely the visas have already been put into the passports and returned to the individuals. The important legal obligation here is that co-sponsors are going to be both liable for the financial obligations that go for a 10-year period. Now, if the marriage is breaking down or breaks down after all of this has been finalized, unfortunately, the main sponsor is going to be fully responsible for that obligation. So it's a question of when the marriage breaks down and the obligations. Unfortunately, this individual, you mentioned $65,000, I don't think it sounds to be a problem. It could be a problem if, for example, the individual main sponsor does not have the required income and needs the co-sponsor's annual income to qualify for that undertaking. In that instance, unfortunately, the application would not be able to succeed. But you've mentioned in passing that the permanent residence application has already been approved. In this instance, you have the income. Unfortunately, the main applicant, the main sponsor, I should say, is going to be fully liable for that 10-year commitment in this situation.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So the next question. So they want to know if you can get access to a previously approved and completed application submitted to the government. So this person is doing their citizenship application, and last year they did a PR renewal application. So they want to know if they included one of their previous addresses in the application. So they only lived in that previous address for a year or so, and they didn't even get mail there. They had a mailing address at a different address, so that was their husband's parents' address. They just can't remember what they put on their previous application. They don't want there to be any discrepancy because they don't want their application to be rejected.
Right. Well, that's a reasonable concern. The first way to go about this is to apply for an access to information request. It's a $5 fee. You submit the application to the Access to Information Office, and generally within 30 days or so, you can expect to receive, and be very precise in what you're looking for. You're looking for the complete application, when you submitted it, what you're looking for. Now, it does occur sometimes that these take time to process, and they go far beyond the 30 days. If time becomes a concern for you, and for example, you're concerned about meeting the citizenship residence requirements and time is moving on, or for other reasons you need to get this done, you could go ahead without submitting an access to information. Simply put the explanation of the discrepancy in addresses, mention on a separate sheet of paper with the application why you're concerned, that you identify the two possible addresses that you would have used on the previous application, and you would identify what those addresses are and the reasons why you're concerned, that you lived with a parental family and you're not sure which address you mentioned in a previous application. So I think by coming clean and being fully transparent about this possible discrepancy, you should be covering your bases.
Perfect, thanks. So the next question, this is a very specific question. This person is in the process of renewing their PRC, and this is for the second time. It's a very specific application form question. So it's regarding form IMM 5444. It's with regards to section C mostly, questions 19, 20, and 21.
Okay, well look, in a general sense, without going into the specifics of an application, generally when you're trying to prove that you meet the physical residence rule of 2 years being physically present in Canada in the previous 5 years. We like to encourage all our clients, you need to keep a file. It's a running calendar. Anytime you are at a particular point in time, since you've become a Canadian permanent resident, you need to go back 5 years from that date, from your date of application, when you're going to submit a new application for a permanent resident card, and you need to be able to answer positively and affirmatively, have you been physically present in Canada for 2 years in 5 years? Now, you want to, the burden of proof is on the applicant, so you do want to have evidence, you want to keep evidence in hand, you want to document if you've been flying, you've been boarding flights, you want to keep your boarding passes, you want to keep hotel receipts, you want to keep all your passport stamps, you want to make this evidence readily available so that when you have to prove, and the burden of proof is on the applicant, you'll be able to discharge those requirements. Of course, it's up to the officer making a decision, and if the proof is not compelling and a decision comes out that's unfavorable, the permanent resident, or one who might be considered no longer a permanent resident, always has a right of appeal. But we always encourage people, it's a bit of a hassle, but it's easy to access if you, in today's day and age with cell phones and taking images of your boarding pass, it's well worth the planning to avoid these kinds of concerns in the future.
Okay, perfect. So the next question, it's a document-related question. So they want to know, photocopies of what documents must be notarized before submission for PRC renewal?
Well, basically, if you're going to submit an application that needs to have notarized documentation, you're looking at translations. So first of all, translating documents from English into English or French, you need to have a seal and a notarized statement confirming the authenticity of the original document and of the status of the translator. Other than that, when you're dealing with these types of applications, you don't want to be submitting originals, but you want to submit certified true copies. Certified true copies are almost considered as the same probative value as an original document. So if it's in English or French, there's no issue. It's only when there's a translation required that you need to have something certified. You need to have an authenticated document. So really, generally, certified documents are fine in the sense that certified true copies of important documents can be included. Otherwise, if you're dealing in documents that are not English or not French, then you need an additional confirmation of the status of the person rendering these translations.
Okay, perfect. So the next question. So this person, their passport is out for renewal. They want to know if it's necessary to include photocopies of all passport pages or just the used stamped pages.
Well, we would probably encourage an individual to maintain photocopies of your full passport, including the blank pages, so the officer can see there's no omissions in terms of presenting a full picture of whatever you're trying to prove. Include your full passport, even the pages that are blank.
All right, and we have time for one more question. So this person, they lost their passport about a year ago, and this is when they were outside of Canada. They filed a police report, they got it notarized, they did the procedure, and they applied for a new passport. And then with that new passport, they came back to Canada. So their Canadian PR card will expire in about 1 month. They're worried about how they can apply for the renewal, basically how they can renew their PR card while in Canada without their previous passport. They know that CIC is going to require travel history from the CBSA. They want to know how to provide travel documents. And their wife and son are Canadian citizens.
Well, realistically, you're going to need to have an explanation of what happened to your passport. You're going to